Hey boys and girls, now that we have had a couple of days of background on long division, now it is time to actually get started on learning how to do long division. And today we'll talk about traditional long division. Before we get started with how, I do want to talk about some vocabulary words. There are 4 words associated with long division. There is the dividend, the divisor, and the quotient and remainder. The dividend is the number inside the box, or the numerator if it's set up as a fraction, or the first number if it's set up with this. The dividend is the large amount that's being broken up. Second word is divisor, and so that's how many groups it's getting broken up into. So that's the second number, or the denominator in a fraction. And then simply the quotient is the answer, so just like a product is the answer for a multiplication, and then remainder is anything left over, and we'll talk about that on the next one. So here we have a story about Mr. B running cross country and track for 3 years in high school, which is true, I did run for 3 years. If I ran a total of 652 miles, which I don't know if that's true, how many did he run each year? So I have a total amount, the 652, and I know that's done over 3 years, so I know this is long division. Now, what I like to do when I'm doing long division is I like to remember this sentence that I'll put on the screen. I like to remember, does McDonald's sell burgers raw? And that has nothing to do with McDonald's, but what it stands for is it actually stands for divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, repeat, which are the steps to long division. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So I've set up my problem. 652 is my dividend, 3 is my divisor. So the first thing is I divide. How many times can 3 go into 6? Well, if I'm counting by 3s, 3, 6, it can go in 2 times. So that goes above my 6. And now I do the next version. Now I do multiply. 3 times 2 is 6. So I put that under the 6. My next step is subtract. And that'll give me a difference of 0. My next step is to bring down. I've got 5. And now I repeat this whole process. So now I divide. How many times can 3 go into 5? Well, 3 can go into 5 only 1 time. And that will give me my multiply step, 3 times 1, and that is 3. Subtract, and then that gives me a difference of 2. Bring down, and now repeat. How many times can 3 go into 22? Well, I'll count by 3s. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. 24 is too high, so I back off 1. So that is 7 times it goes in. Now I multiply. 3 times 7 is 21. Subtract 1. I have nothing left to bring down, so this 1 now becomes my remainder. But now I know you're thinking, Mr. B, how do I check myself? Because, you know, I always like when you check. So just like we check addition with subtraction, subtraction with addition, we're going to check it with the opposite. And the opposite, in this case, is multiplication. So we take our quotient, 217, we multiply it by our divisor, and that will give us 1. We carry up the group of 2, that's going to give us 5, that's going to give us, then we're going to multiply 2 times 3, and that's going to give us 6, and uh-oh, these numbers don't match. Oh, but I still have this remainder. So all I do is I add my remainder, 652, and now that matches, and now I'm good to go. So there's no excuse to ever get this wrong. Let's go to our next section here. Here's your pause and solve problem. Don't be afraid to rewind the video a little bit to get those steps and to rewatch it. So pause this and solve it, please. Okay, hopefully by this point you have solved this. So I've got my steps, my divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and repeat. I also like to give myself little symbols to help myself out. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and repeat. So that's something you can write down on your paper during an opportunity or anytime you want to practice. So let's get rolling here. 324 pages is my dividend. I'm reading it in 4 days, so that's what my divisor is. Now, how many times does 4 go into 3? Well, it can't. So now what I do is, how many times can 4 go into 32? Hopefully you were able to figure that out, or you might have put a 0 there. So 4 can go into 32 8 times. 4 times 8 is 32. I subtract. That's going to give me a difference of 0. I bring down my 4. Now, how many times can 4 go into 4? 4 can go into 4 one time. 4 times 4 is 1. Subtract, that gives me a difference. So I don't have a remainder at all in this one. So now I need to check my work, because that's always important. So I take my my quotient, 81 times 4, my divisor, it's going to give me 324. I don't have a remainder to add in, and this simply matches this. So this will bring us to a bring back to school problem. Connor's going to be turning 7 this year. By the time he reaches his birthday, Mr. B will have spent that much money on him. So make sure you solve this and figure it out. Make sure you're checking it. What I'm going to be looking for is that you've solved it, you've checked it, and it's also going to be helpful that you've taken good notes, especially in that first slide talking about the vocabulary terms and the steps. So good luck. This is a new skill, so I'm not expecting you to have it mastered, but I am expecting you to try your best. Have a great evening, and I will see you in the morning.